thank you. Somebody has, I think Shishir ji is the one who has, going to operate the slides for me. So if you just see the first slide, please. So the next slide. The next slide, please. Ji. So if you just look at it, if you look at the scenario today for mental health, have some statistics for all of you. Some of them are very, very alarming. So 1 out of 4 people suffer from some sort of mental illness or the other. So anxiety, depression, in fact, it's literally like when we are sitting in a gathering, you can just understand that, every 4th person will be having some mental illness or the other. Next, please. Yeah, so just if you just see 350 million people worldwide suffer from depression, 80% of the people do not take or receive any treatment. And the better news is, the good statistics is that about 80% or actually 90% of the people suffering from any mental illness, it is curable. It's just that people don't reach out for help. Next, please. Just quick look on the, on the overload of suicides. 1 lakh people committed suicides. Well, every hour a student commits. 90% of suicides are a result of some or the other untreated mental illness, whereas we do understand now that 80% of the illnesses are treated. Next, please. So if you really see why is it that, what is the reason that, where we have this kind of a statistic that 90% of suicides are because of an untreated mental illness, and yet people are not taking help. One is, of course, the stigma of mental illnesses that, people, it's tough for people to go reach a mental health practitioner, although I feel in the pandemic, the stigma has gone down tremendously. So it should become as simple as if you have repeated pains and aches, you run to a doctor. Similarly, if you have repeated mood swings or something which is repeatedly disturbing you, definitely need to go and see a mental health specialist. Lack of sensitization and, of course, lack of specialists and resources. It's pretty much to the urban area, limited to the urban area, where, of course, now with online counseling available, and people are also readily availing it. So why are we here talking today about mental wellness? About 2 decades ago, Nuvira used to sit and talk about wellness and health, and today so much of time is dedicated to it. So, it is the need of the hour. It is essential to improve mind, body, and spirit, also in order to maximize the potential for a person to lead a productive life. So if you really see, the biggest killer in the world today, accounting for over 80% deaths worldwide, is modern lifestyle. It's not any allergy or any infection which causes maximum deaths. It's primarily because of the poor lifestyle. In fact, one of the gentlemen here was also introducing themselves, saying that they work in lifestyle, and we wait to connect later. So just to quickly ask all of you, I'm sure you could type your answer. Do you think does anybody think that there's nothing wrong with their lifestyle today? Yes or no?
I wanted to know, talking specifically in terms of depression or anything else wrong with the lifestyle?
Talking in general about lifestyle.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Anybody who feels there's nothing wrong with their lifestyle, of course, except the gentleman.
I don't find anything wrong in the lifestyle.
All right. So, just to explain to all of you, if you see the next slide, please. Yeah. So, just to understand, faulty lifestyle actually just comprises of stress, a faulty diet, sedentary life, that means we're not exercising sufficiently, smoking, and alcohol. This is primarily what creates a poor lifestyle. And if you see this slide at the end, it shows you many diseases. Ranging from vascular diseases to nervous system diseases to psychiatric illnesses and so on. Next, please. And also to add to the faulty lifestyle is the pressure to perform, urbanization, busy schedules, and the peer pressure. Right. So this is just kind of a comparison. It's a beautiful pictorial comparison of how life was about a couple of decades ago and how modern lifestyle is so demanding with, full of, I think even 24 hours is insufficient for people who wanting to do so much, and lifestyles were a lot greener earlier. I'm talking about 2 decades ago. Next, please. Yeah. So just look at this next, please. So we just didn't want a gender bias, so we have this picture as well. So as you all see, there is this particular picture which shows that there is a lot of stress this gentleman is feeling, or the woman who was feeling earlier. Anybody in one quick word, what do you think is causing stress for this person?
Business.
Anybody else?
I think the clock.
Okay, so what's really causing stress for these people in one word is multitasking. That is primarily what ends up causing stress for our brain. Usually only about one to two tasks is what is allowed by the brain at the time without getting stressed. What happens with most of us is that we are doing at least 3 tasks at one go, thinking of what are we going to do when we go back home, typing something else on the laptop, typing something else in the on your cell phones, so on and so forth. Next, please. So what really is stress? Stress is our body's response to anything that disrupts our normal life and routines. It is simply the emotional and physical way how we respond to something or a situation that is perceived to be harmful. Now, is there anybody who has never felt stress? Tension, stress जिसे हम normally बोलते हैं. So we all feel stress at some point of time or the other. So I want to ask all of you, maybe we could do this little exercise together, all of us. What is it that you feel when you feel stressed? जब आपको तनाव लगता है तो क्या महसूस करते हैं? Anybody?
Headache.
Headache. Okay, fantastic. Anybody else? Thank you, Tejinder ji.
BP going up.
Okay. All right. What else?
Short-tempered.
Yeah, I'm already. I feel like having a beer.
Okay, that's what you feel like having, but what is the emotion you go through is short temper. So this is primarily what happens to us when we feel stressed. These are some of the emotional symptoms: anger, irritability, fear, sadness. Next, please. And some of the symptoms which our body feels, or our mind feels, is difficulty in concentration, can't decide, low productivity, brooding. Next. And some symptoms which our body feels is like sometimes you could have experienced digestive problems, weight issues, aches and pains, constant palpitations, easily getting tired, disturbances in sleep and appetite, बहुत ज़्यादा खाना खाने का मन करना है, या appetite का loss हो जाना, बहुत ज़्यादा सोना या बिल्कुल नींद नहीं आना. So these things are when the stress affects our body. Next. And some of the behavioral symptoms, the reduced performance, demotivation, absenteeism at work, not being able to do your continued activity levels, increase in the use of any kind of stimulants, caffeine, smoking, alcohol, anything else. Next, please. Next, please. So as you can see, we of course feel very, very stressed due to the COVID situation. Most of the population is feeling very stressed. Next, please. So, of course, the lifestyle before COVID was very, very routine. We were going to meet people, socializing, we were going out to work, going out to restaurants, watching a movie, spending time with family and friends, going to a workplace. Next, please. And of course, now we have, there is so much of anxiety, fear, there is a lot of stress in the environment, there's financial insecurity, there is insecurity in relationships, we can't go socialize, everything has become virtual. So we're really living more of a virtual life versus a life which is to be a real life. Next, please. So some of the common stressors which we feel are, daily hassles, crowds, failed relationships, finances, work overload, illness, retirement. These are all common stressors. So stressors are those things which cause stress. Next, please. Yes, so people will agree, an authoritarian boss, a difficult child, a nagging spouse, all these create stress for us. Next. So the big stressors nowadays are lifestyle changes, fear and anxiety, unprecedented lockdown, financial insecurity, monotony and boredom, and no social contact. So far we were talking about, what is stress, tanav kya hota hai, uske symptoms kya hote hain, what is it that we feel and why are we feeling stressed nowadays. Next, please. So we look at something called an ABC strategy. That means the awareness, balance, and the control. So awareness of the environment around us, or awareness of the reason why are we feeling stressed, the balance, to balance the negative and the positive, and how to create a control. So we always follow an ABC strategy. Next, please. So the awareness, next, the balance, and the control. Control are the measures which you people end up taking. These are just some beautiful tips on how to keep yourself calm and heal yourself. The next one, this is some tips how to heal your relationships, because as we understand, a lot of relationships are undergoing a huge toll in this pandemic period. We see the rise of domestic violence, rise of number of cases filed in for divorce, and a lot of family discord and marital discord. Next, please. Some tips on parenting. Next. And some very, very nice tips on how to take care of the elderly. So these 4 slides, I will send them across to all of you, all your members, so that we can just kind of, have everybody look into all these pointers. Now let's go to the next slide, please. The next one. So how are we going to deal with this stress? So one is changing your thinking, changing your behavior, and changing your lifestyle. So changing our thinking by reframing, by positive thinking. So, if we don't have an injection saying, chalo aaj positive sochna shuru karte hain, even when we are feeling down in the dumps. Yes, but we do have a lot around us which can help us support, creating good support structure, good support systems, creating, a lot of people wake up to something very nice, although we are very fortunate now that we have some good videos, some beautiful WhatsApp messages floating in the morning, so that, we can have a look at that, and that could be a beautiful, positive framework. And a very, very nice thing is to, in the morning, to do a 1-minute gratitude. We just do 1 minute of gratitude every morning. It is known to help release certain positive hormones. And at bedtime also, if we do some positive affirmations, that also creates a change in our thinking. And when there is a change in the thinking, there will automatically be a change in the action or the behavior. If we don't make a change in our thinking and we don't create an intention, we are not going to change the behavior either. Next, please. Time management is a very, very important way to start, creating a lot of positive changes in ourselves. Planning the day, cutting out wastage time, basically learning how to filter, setting some goals every day. In fact, people are also setting up a to-do list every single day, which works fantastically. At least it works fantastically for me. So it's a great idea to have a to-do list with prioritization. Next, please. Changing our lifestyle with changing the diet. Smoking, of course, we always say a no to. Alcohol, we say in limits. Of course, the people will ask what is the limit. So that is, there's some standardized limits for it. Exercise is something now we don't say there is no substitute to exercise, and especially if you're having low moods at any given point of time, please ensure that you're exercising for at least 45 minutes to an hour every day, because that ensures the release of endorphins, serotonin releases. पर ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने एक दिन exercise किया तो serotonin flow होना शुरू होगा. It is not like that. We need to ensure that we exercise on a daily basis so that we keep the hormone levels up. Some amount of sun is also very, very necessary. Sunlight also creates some release of positive hormones. So, exercising out in the broad daylight is a fantastic, early morning is great. Making sure that we sleep well, sleeping for at least 7 to 8 hours every night, and having a restful night, that is important. Some leisure activities and relaxation is also very, very important, because after every 6 days everybody wants a Sunday, and that's the way it should be. It should be some place to just let go and refresh and rejuvenate yourself, or even every evening. Next, please. So if you just have a look at this, this is a very, very important slide. Please have a look at this. And with this, I'll wind and then we can take questions. Fixing routine, regular sleep and regular meals. What's happened during the pandemic is that constantly people have been getting calls and, messages from people where they're unable to sleep at night properly and they're either binge watching on their phones, etc. And they're sleeping late, waking up late. People have lost time of regular meals. So I think that is something we cannot compromise on. Decluttering your space and thoughts. Physical exercise, like I said, an hour a day. 10 minutes minimum of breathing exercises daily. Some pranayama. If you're not aware of it, please, if you've never done it, go to YouTube and do something. Some meditation for 10 to 15 minutes a day. So all we're literally asking is for an hour and a half total of your day. You can break it up as and when you want to. So about 45 minutes to an hour of physical exercise, 15 minutes breathing, 15 minutes meditation talks. So that is an hour and a half. And that is something which we owe to ourselves. Positive activities. I think lots of people took to some fantastic positive activities during this time where people started recreating their old hobbies, their old interests, started learning new skills. We've had, I think, so many people, come up with such fantastic new cooking skills, gardening skills, learning music, writing, so much. And of course, grounding exercises, prayers for people who don't believe in a God, but they believe in some higher energy. Please sit down, doing some amount of just even focusing on your breath, doing some grounding, which means that you're grounded to Mother Earth. And those grounding energies are very important for all of us to continue on a daily basis, having a great support structure of family and friends. This is what we really need to adhere to. And so we, like I promised, we will reach out with these 5 slides. And there is just the next slide, please. G. So this is an activity which all of you could do when you go back home today. You can ask your family members to do it also. What is my ideal life post-quarantine look like? That's a fantastic way to understand how we have utilized this period fruitfully for ourselves, because all our lives we've been talking about time nahi hai, time nahi hai. Now when there is a time, then also we people are cribbing as a population. That is something we need to see this time as a positive time for growth. And in fact, I heard Sadhguru saying the other day that if all of us don't come out of this 10% better emotionally, 10% better spiritually, 10% better physically, then there is something wrong which we are doing. Because we got this beautiful WhatsApp message in the beginning when the lockdown 1.0, 2.0 was going on, and that's my personal favorite, which said that the earth has shut down for repairs. And similarly, we as a human race, all of us did shut down also, only to restart, rejuvenate afresh. So that is something which is very, very important, and it's a learning lesson for all of us, because I don't think any one of us in our lifetime has seen a time like this. And this is obviously happening for us to create some self-realization and to learn something. So thank you all for bearing with me for the last, I think, half hour now, listening to me. And now we'll just leave the house open for questions.
Mrs. Arjun Pandey, just a quick one. Is there any reports on the impacts of COVID or side effects that it's having on mental health as well, other than the direct and obvious one of anxiety, uncertainty, and adding to it? But is the virus itself also adding to it? Anything that you've heard around that?
No, so actually what we are aware of is currently, so we people are all evolutionary psychologists as well as in mental health experts. So we are also mapping, with the number of cases coming in into our clinics and, the number of queries coming in into us for asking for help. So with that, we do understand that, the need for mental health has become exponentially high at this point of time. What's happened is, Arjun, people who already were suffering from anxiety or depression, in any case, their levels have gone up tremendously, right, in this period. And for people who never experienced symptoms like this, are starting to experience it, or already experiencing. And unfortunately, with Sushant Singh's suicide. It literally threw us. It threw us, all the mental health professionals, all the senior people, it threw all the senior professionals out of gear. That one Sunday, I remember, literally for about, I think 10, 12 days, I didn't put my phone down because a number of people who were reaching out saying, "Hame kya ho raha hai? Ho sakta hai humko kuch ho raha hai." So people are also getting very, very aware. So having said that, your question about how much recording is going on, we are all recording and we all, put it all together as stats. But so far, we don't have any clear-cut statistics to show कि कितना rise है. But there is an exponential rise. That's for sure. But the virus itself doesn't cause any damage onto the mind. Although severe cases there, we have seen some brain issues, but not otherwise. On the moods, no.
As you spoke on meditation, then there's this, there's this mindful meditation, which you hear the speaker and you just concentrate. On the other hand, like my wife, she's into Buddhist chanting, Nichiren Daishonin's Namyo Renge Kyo. And now that is the other side where you're not quiet, you're all sort of chanting together. Now does that also, there are two different sort of extremes of trying to reduce stress. So which do you subscribe to?
See, if you ask even any one of the senior spiritual gurus and you ask them ki kya hai, meditation kya hai, so they will always say that it's just keeping quiet, sitting down and concentrating and focusing on something. Now when we're talking about chanting like Namyo Renge Kyo or any other chant, suppose I just start chanting any mantra, for instance. So it is also known that the mantra chants, so I will categorize Namyo Renge Kyo also as a mantra at the end of the day, right? It's a Buddhist mantra, or it's a powerful mantra. Even if we look at Om as a mantra, right? So if all of it has a musical syllabic connotation, vibrational energy, which hits our nervous system at a particular place. So it's at a particular hertz. So by the way, even a simple thing like a Om Namah Shivaya, there is a way to chant it. What we people keep doing is Om Namah Shivaya. That's not actually the way. There is a proper way to chant the Om Namah Shivaya so that these syllables actually resonate with that vibrational frequency, which is supposed to, kind of get you a lot of peace. And there is a lot of research going on it. The second thing what I'd like to share about mantras is also, they say always, chant, sit down and chant. ऐसे नहीं बोलते कि खड़े खड़े चलते चलते chanting करो, right? Because that effect, they say, वो भी तो effect हो सकता है. No, that's what I talked about, grounding. What happens is when you sit down, there is a reason, because we all understand that our body has chakras. We all understand that our body, there is an energy form to the whole thing. It's not the physical body at all. There's a whole energy system to it. So when we sit down and we connect to the roots, we connect our sacral chakra, the sacral plexus connects down to the roots, goes deep down into Mother Earth, and that's one of the first grounding exercises that anybody, whether it's a Reiki person, a pranic healing person, will make you do. That ground yourself to Mother Earth. Simple language में for the youth is बैठना सीखो, स्थिर होके बैठना सीखो. Then start chanting something. Now, whether I do the Sukhmani Sabka part, or I do a Om Namah Shivaya, or I do a Namyo Renge Kyo, the vibration energies are also very high and also allows me to sit down and sit with myself.
Thank you. That's well explained. Thank you.
So, hi, Doctor. This is Naresh here. I have a question. You see, I read it a long time back. It is very important to give, voice to your thoughts and then try to control them with the help of someone you know, as a mentor, as a friend, as your wife. Curbing your thoughts creates stress. So it's a very difficult proposition, actually. First, you have a thought which is creating a stress. You talk about it loudly, and then you motivate yourself to come out of it. Like you said, ABC, right? Many people, like People are positive, people are neutral, people are pessimistic, right? It is so difficult to control this process. But if you learn how to do it, I think you can win over. What do you think is the normal trait with the people? Why they cannot overcome and control this feeling positive even after they have felt the stress?
I am with you partially. So, Naresh,
Yeah.
the point is that we are not meant to control all our thoughts. Thoughts coming in, right? We're not meant. What we are saying is that we should try to minimize the negative thoughts. Control
Okay.
जहाँ करेंगे वहाँ पे तो it will be added stress. Means getting a thought मत करो. So that create a stress. But if we are saying that we are bored of negative thoughts, that is what we need to control is the negative thoughts. And yes, we do teach people how to control it. We tell them to journal the thoughts. We tell them to review. We tell them to delete it in their heads, and so many methods to do it. But yes, it's only when the negative thoughts are overpowering our day-to-day functioning, existing, that is when we ask people to start controlling the negative thoughts. Otherwise, एक plus or minus तो चलते ही रहता है मन के अंदर. वो उसमें कोई problem नहीं है. And we also need to understand we also have something called waste thoughts. W-A-S-T-E, waste thoughts. सबके दिमाग में चलते रहते हैं. 20,000 things are going on. So that's okay. It's just that we should learn to minimize. So even with methods like meditation, where we channelize our mind, where we channelize our nervous system, we learn to overpower the negative thoughts also.
Yes, Naresh, to please express a word of thanks to Doctor.
Okay, so I'm the one who requested her to join this panel. Dr. Singh, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Explained very simply and beautifully. A long time back, I was told when I was a kid, talk about the gratitude. My mom made us say thank you for every meal to everybody, right? And that is missing in today's world. So I thank my wife every time she gives me any meal. Before going to bed, I thank her. I have a selfish motive. I know that the next day I'll get a good breakfast and food and everything. But yes, it helps. The use of the word thank you is very, very important. And if you learn it, I think it's a wonderful thing. And that's exactly what you have been trying to tell us, that gratitude, the moment you say something positive, all thoughts, they become positive. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. Very, very lovely.
It is my privilege to introduce fellow AoEan Arjun Pandey. He is a multiple award-winning media professional, a TEDx speaker. As a documentary filmmaker, he has to his name multiple Indian and international awards and 3 fellowships. In 2006, he was declared as one of India's top creative future by IIM Bangalore and British Council, a program that selected 20 of India's top 10 talent in the creative space. In 2009, he was invited as a young global leader to the Bucharest Summer School, Germany, and was one of the handful of Indians to have attended the program. He has also received the United Kingdom Environmental Film Fellowship. With a total of 20 years plus experience, what excites him most about his work is the change he has been part of. He has worked on 7 campaigns that have helped India change the law in India, 5 protecting wildlife and India's environment when he was working with his uncle, Mike Pandey. Incidentally, I have heard some talks from his uncle and they were superb, especially on the tiger. And 2 on health, including pictorial pack warnings and clean air law. His films have played out individually in 170 plus countries globally, from broadcasters from the BBC to Al Jazeera to Doordarshan and NDTV in India. He has been running 24 Frames Films Limited for the last 19 years. Arjun has worked on projects for UNDP, UNICEF, WHO, DFID, and the Gates Foundation, among other leading agencies working in the development sector. Arjun is actively involved in philanthropic activities and has long-standing commitments as part of political advisory, social media, and media advisory. Arjun has recently taken over as President, Sales and Marketing, New Alliances and Strategy at India Ahead, a national news channel telecast in English. It is on Tata Sky Channel 617. Thank you. It's a pleasure to introduce Arjun Pandey.
All right, so this is my story, and it's very integral to what I do, and I think it's also going to help define what I help people do, help brands tell their own stories. So the ABC of telling stories and building brands. As a young child, I was very lucky to be born in a family of professionals. You can see me here, maybe 8 or 9 or 10, with a early generation of video cameras. This really transformed filmmaking. The camera that you see is, back then, must have been like 8-10 lakhs. An iPhone beats cameras which are like $1.5 crore, maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, the cheapest phone that you get in the market, the resolution of this camera would be lower than that. My mother was one of the first few women producers in the country. She was with Doordarshan, and my father was one of the first few documentary filmmakers in the country, talking about wildlife and environment conservation as far back as 45 years ago. Now, why that has any relevance is in terms of directions that I took. With my mother, I got to see an insight with television, with seeing how news plays out. It was the single channel. It was great fun having your mom there, the principal in the school, the teachers, all were very nice. She was one of the few people on the single channel. My father was talking about wildlife environment conservation 4.5 decades ago. And from there to human development to other critical issues. And for me, this became very formative in my own story. Now, stories have an immense power. And I think for any brand, in this case, I'm telling the story of my own personal brand and where it goes. And as you see it unfold, you'll see it through this presentation. But I think for all of our businesses, I think we must anchor stories into it. Today, when you look at television, when you look at social media, it's an ocean of noise out there, right? Television channels, you've got about 860 plus TV channels in the country, 400 plus news channels, 40 to 50 Hindi channels, 6 odd English of any repute. Then you keep going. Regional, vernacular, entertainment. Interestingly, all of our consumption is moved to mobiles. So it brings me to the first of the alphabets, A, audience and attention. Roughly every minute of every day, 500 hours of video is uploaded onto YouTube, right? This is 2019. This number would have increased incrementally. I'm assuming in lockdown, you're looking at it being double. So that's 60,000 hours of content. That's 1.4 million hours of content every day that comes onto YouTube. Now, YouTube being the second largest search engine in the world and on which Google also relies, when you're trying to get your message out, you're going to get lost in a cacophony of noises that exist out there. So how are you going to distinguish yourself? First is the audience mapping. What are you trying to sell? Who is your first and biggest market that you want to reach out to? Is it the government? Is it business to consumer? Is it business to business? So let's say within our own group, I see a lot of content that Shishir would populate on Meraki. Now, Meraki for all of us is a house brand. You feel whenever you see it, there's a great sense of, patriotism, passion, a sense of familial belonging for the brand. So I think that is what brands have to do. So in terms of mapping to us, Shishir has done that. In terms of mapping to us, Shishir has done that. So as a B2C business, it works. Now, if you were B2B, how would you map that? Okay, Meraki, I want to reach Meraki out to everyone out there on the internet and everywhere in the world. I don't think the money, you can shout out any of the big brands. So that is cost prohibitive. In terms of reaching the right audience. Now, when you start audience mapping, that becomes very interesting. So let's say there's a database that you have, 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people that you that have bought your product, what you'll start noticing is a particular pattern around them. A certain demographic, a certain age, a certain gender, certain socioeconomic, certain areas which are geographically spread. So, what happens is when you have this audience, you have a phone number, an email, you take this onto social media with any of the campaigns, put it on Google, put it on Facebook, all of them. Instagram is working beautifully. And then you'd hit that out. Supposing you were selling to government, now it would be a completely different strategy. If I was a mass product, the recently banned TikTok would be a great way to reach out. If I wanted to just send information out, you had 360 million people. It was agnostic of education, right? But the socioeconomic was lower and the age profiling was 13 to 35. So if you didn't want anyone to buy your product, you would go there. For, let's say, Shishir and Miraki, Instagram would be the preferred platform to hit on because the spend would be maybe 25 to 50 and the socioeconomic is in the upper end of the spectrum. Versus if you were actually wanting to push and lobby with the government or push advocacy with the government, Twitter is the platform. Most of your journalists sit there. There are fights which are happening there. The political parties use this. All the politicians are there. So who are the guys who are there? The politicians, the bureaucrats, the journalists. Three of the stakeholders that for a business that is driving governmental support or needs governmental support, that platform works. So the audience and the attention. Don't go out for a wide spectrum. You do not have the money. You do not want to waste the money, even if you have the money, because the audience is going to get hit with some 1.4 million hours of content today. By the end of today, that is the amount of new content that YouTube will have. Imagine the amount of photos, imagine the amount of text that goes out there. So the first thing that you need is a starting point, a seed. Do you have one data set, 10 people, 100 people, relevant messaging that you put out to there, and then getting their attention? So if you've got that mapped, now two concepts that I've been trying to really propagate a lot. One is called circle of influence, and the second is circle of fear. I'll start with circle of influence because that's in the positive side of things. Let's say that there is Modair, our guest from Australia. Now, if Modair is wanting to reach out to 10 odd companies, I would look at the gatekeepers around that. So if I can get a data mapping, I don't want to reach the top boss of Reliance. I want to get my content targeted to them. Now I know what their socioeconomic profile is. I know what their salaries are, and I know possibly what car they drive. You'd be amazed at the amount of information we leave on platforms like Facebook. So if any one of us have traveled outside, you're not going to Facebook and saying we've traveled out of India this year. What Facebook does very nicely is when you go out of India once, twice a year, and you post a photo or you post something or you check into a fancy hotel, Facebook now tags you saying, hey, this guy's got money. He's traveled outside of India. Is it a rich country he's been to, or is it a cheap country? Have you traveled to Nepal, or have you gone all the way for an Arctic cruise, right? So it buckets you on that. Now, when you go as a brand, you've got an audience which is mapped. You've got that data set. You take that data set, put it onto any of these platforms, and you map it for like audiences. Done. Your message is set, your audience is there, and you will get the attention by giving them the relevant content. The next thing is, what is your belief? I think the biggest trend which will emerge is people will want to shop with brands, buy brands, partner with brands that have very good belief systems in place. And you've got to be really transparent about it. Now, everything which I see about Miraki, from the packaging of it, shows little attention to detail. It shows that it has concern for the environment. They're little brown boxes, you open it out. Very good. Now that speaks of the brand. A little roll that's been, a little note with the description of that particular aromatherapy tied up with a little string, that has value. So it tells me more about the brand than me meeting the founder and going into conversation, because the brand speaks for it, because I may never get to meet the person, right? So what are you trying to build as your core brand beliefs, and what are you trying to sell? Each one of them, let's say Disney, in the top here, I've put Disney, Hallmark, Amazon category, right? They're talking about sincerity. Amazon is about delivery. If they're telling you we'll deliver in 5-7 days, other than the COVID impact, majority of times they will deliver in that. If it's next day, majority of times it will deliver in that. Disney keeps with the whole theme of content that you get. You would never get any content that you would probably catch on Twitter, which I would term as soft on a Disney. You will not get that there. Even a Netflix and a Amazon Prime would play that content, but not on Disney. Disney is very specific on what it ties up for, but that builds a brand. So every single thing that you're doing, from your logo to your packaging to your communication, is it speaking about that? A lot of what my business is currently doing is talking about discretion. So I don't go out and talk about who I'm doing a lot of work for or what I'm doing or involved in. And therefore, the brands are very happy to work with me because that buys in. So what is the B of your story? What is the belief that you hold? Be it when you're working with government, be it when you're doing B2B business or B2C business. There's specific things that you have to believe in. Content. Now you know where you want to reach, you map your audiences. You've got a sense of who you are, your core belief system. And now you start putting out your content. Now the two things here are relevance and consistency, right? So even if it's a simple photo, even if it's, and you've got so much content out there, you can get memes that you can create, you can have articles that you can write. What is the periodicity of the content? What is the form of it? Video is the most highly engaging content. It works with phasey form. You're seeing a lot of webinars take a lot of uptake. Our own attendance at the AoE sessions has increased. Again, A, there's convenience. B, we are seeing each other. We've got the attention of each other always. So seeing the human face and form has great value. So video, if you can, and the cost of entry is now so low. I've seen webinars that Neeraj Bhai has been doing on finance. So it's such a easy table minimum. Don't use Zoom, use Cisco, use Google Hangouts, whatever you want, and take that and amplify that to your audience. So that's one piece of content that you could do. Photos created with a montage with a little voiceovers from that becomes a video or a film. Memes, images, the right content, the right time. When my friend Varun Madhok has launched a company that is selling products that help us fight COVID, the relevance of that is now. The relevance of his branding, the fact that he's saying, okay, this is better than the other options. In terms of the messaging that he's put out there, it works and sells. So all it needs now is a regular, consistent flow of the content to be carried out. And then, when you've got your mapped audiences, I think you've got a great winner on your hand as well. Dissemination. Now, again, in the post-COVID reality of life, you're seeing a lot change. If you're looking at media with mainline, you're looking at TV, radio, print, online sites, social media, I'll even add in outdoor. Now, if you're, again, like some of us, I've been out from day one. We've been doing some food distribution, but the relevance of what I'm trying to say is there is majority of the outdoor sites are currently available. And if you go and talk to them, the deals you'll get today, if you wanted to get ambience and there's a huge signboard on that, which would have been 10 lakhs, you could possibly get that at a lakh today. Is the numbers there? No, it's not the same. It's not 100%. You've got 15% of the population which is sort of back to work. In another 15, 20 days, you'll see another 10, 15%. Yes, our caseloads are rising, but maybe for brands that need to reach out to those that are actually out there, who are there? The frontline workers are there. Lots of government administrative people are there. Media is there. People whose business owners, they're out there. So you could actually get to them at a cheaper, lower cost. Same applies for television. Same applies for radio and print. The only one that has actually done a lot more business and made more profit during these times is news channels. News channels were hurting, were bleeding money. They were in losses. They're all coming into profit post the COVID reality. Why? Because a lot of people are watching it. But the consumption pattern has changed. You're not watching it on your set-top boxes. You're watching it on your mobile phone. And that, again, is a very interesting observation and an insight to look at. Currently in India, 68% of people are consuming news and content on their mobile phones. 32% of the people in India are consuming their news on Facebook. They do not go to any news channel. They consume it on Facebook. Is there a messaging that your brand wants to create? Are you mapping that? Do you know how many groups there are? Let's say if you're looking at aromatherapy or holistic healing or yoga or meditation, when you do content on that, is every one of your posts getting posted on those groups? Each one of those groups could have a few hundred to a few tens of thousands. I'll come to one of mine that I have specifically, and that's a gift that I have for all of you in case you'd like to use it. From mainline media to radio to print, all these mediums are currently much cheaper. The online sites, the social media guys, they're making a lot of money. This is the time they're really doing well. A lot of them, not all of them. If again, it comes back to the basis of business. There's a recent story of Times Internet and how it's bleeding money. Get your business right, you get your messaging out. So the other thing with that is, simple press releases, dissemination of content, even with online. There are a lot of emails that you could send out. So there's going to be a lot of new portals that come out where you could actually carry your press notes from your own company as your own brand. A friend of mine publishes a magazine called India Legal. Now the print run of it is only 2,000. But do you know the power of that magazine? The Chief Justice of India has it on his table. All the justices in all the courts across all the states have it. All the judges have it. All the senior lawyers have it. Now imagine what he publishes. If you're anyone in the legal fraternity, an article in that for you is dynamite, right? So all you've got to do is talk to their editor, talk to their reporters, and sell your story of what you're doing. Now, if your product is relevant to that, so if you're looking at software, if you're looking at technology, if you're looking at creating websites or doing something in the legal fraternity, wonderful. You've got whatever you do, have a funnel. Funnel your leads onto your own website. Facebook is not yours. YouTube is not yours. None of them are going to benefit you. I've personally faced this. I have a community with over 800,000 people on Facebook. Every time I want to reach them completely, I have to pay Facebook. Now, that's counterproductive. It took me time, effort, and money to build that community up. But imagine if I'd done that with my own database on my own website, where I could just send out an email to 800,000 people. The response rate of that would be crazy. And it would have been the same amount of money. So when you're setting this up, set your funnel from social media, from media, all of it needs to funnel into your main website. I paid and built the audience base for Facebook. I have a massive traction. I have over 800,000 people. So imagine if I put that money and effort into building my own funnel and having my own database. So this is a great learning. This is maybe after a crore and a half burnt onto this, but please build your own funnel. Don't rely on third-party platforms. I've seen it from a point when there was a platform called Rise. Rise came, Rise died. Orkut, which became something else. So, all of these keep coming, going. So build your own data sets, build your own tractions. My first gift to you is this. If any of you want to put anything with your business, which could be relevant to the audiences in and around Delhi and the NCR, please send me material. I'd happily carry it, right? This is for the AoE family, so there's no question of anything else beyond that. An article, a video, a set of photos that you want. I have an editor in-house who'll string it together as a video. So if Criconet would like a little shout out with the app, screenshots, saying, hey, this is a great thing, please send me the photos. Please send me a write-up. I'll get my editor to edit it out and you'll have a little video. I've been doing that for a lot of people and I'm happy to do it for my AoE family as well. So I run 24 Frame, which is a film production company. I have a very good working relation with a large number of broadcasters across the country and internationally. Most of the heads, content heads, the presidents are virtually a phone call away from me. So if there is any mapping that you need with any of them, do let me know. I'm going to share this slide. Recently, I shared a link on a film that I did in Banaras. This was again in continuation with 24 Frames. This was for the Prime Minister's virtual museum there. And it was the history of Banaras. It's in Hindi. So, but it was a project that I really enjoyed. I went in depth. I spent 2 months filming there and I loved every minute of it. That city truly is magical and the history And the depth of the history and legacy of India is so beautiful. You can only experience it once you're there. The third thing, before I move to the third one, a lot of my work is also done around advocacy. This is to build change. You can see this thing that we did for the Commonwealth Games in 2010. We planted 1 million trees in Ladakh. We broke the Guinness record twice. I was leading that. I sat in on the Green Subcommittee for the Games. And I also connected the Drukpa lineage, where I had one of the NGOs there, Live to Love, which has both Rancho School in Ladakh, and we have an animal rescue center that has some 500 plus stray animals in Ladakh as well. On top here, I am in Nepal with a relief effort post the Nepal earthquake. From New York, DC to Kutch, drinking fresh camel's milk or filming in the Sundarbans. Life has been very, very generous with me. I have had an experience of more than my fair share of traveling the world and telling stories. I enjoy doing that, and that's my belief, to give voices to those that need voices. With India Ahead, this is the third give, and if there is any of you that needs their stories on this, we are on Tata Sky currently. We will be on Airtel by the end of the month. Our cable distribution will go up. The owner had pumped in a lot of money somewhere in the program. It ran into big losses. Leadership was a bit all over the place. A friend of mine, Bhupender Chaubey, who used to be the face of Network 18, he has entered this channel with equity stake and a buyout. So it's a great new direction. You'll see him in the next few weeks on the channel. You will also see a complete revamp of the channel. Right. India Ahead also has a parent group that was set up in 1938. It is a newspaper called Andhra Prabha. It has 12 editions and reaches about 4.5 lakh people in Andhra and Telangana. I can't push too much in it. While I've taken over as President Sales and Marketing, it's more for India Ahead. However, since it is a group company, if any of you need a shout out there, I can try and push something there as well. There is an app, there is OTT that is coming up, website and social media is there. There's decent traction.
Any questions?
Yeah, how do you manage such a big bandwidth?
So, sir, I a concept of a polymath, and there's another, some of our friends here would probably laugh at this, but I also believe in something called the mastermind. So through time and through history, there are a lot of people who actually are able to excel at a lot. To those on the outside, if it seems like luck, I'm happy. I try and put in as much of my time, getting up early, putting in those hours. I do not shy away from it, and I do it very discreetly. So it allows me a lot more. And I find that, you know, life has so much of bounty to offer. It's only how much we want to take out of it. If we restrict ourselves to say, hey, I can't do this, then we cannot. On the other hand, if we open ourselves to say, I can do this, I can do that, a world opens up. I think everything comes with you. I feel the AoE family is like that for me as well. You know, it's like a huge support base that is there. And one gains small things, you know. At the end of it, all of us are a admix of all our experiences, all the insights, the multiple conversations that I've had with all of you. All of them have added in the experiences to who I am. And I feel that defines my journey as well. So the polymath, let's not go with jack of all, ace of none. I think there are enough people in history let's not change ourselves to believe we can't. I think all of us have the ability to do it. I'm still on my journey. I feel I've only started and I have a long way to go. So I also like to keep grounded.
Thank you, Arjun. Any more questions, please? Okay. Thanks, Arjun. That was a good insight into brand building. And there's plenty of food for thought on what you have spoken about. We move on. Shishir, anything on the website?
Yeah, the website was almost ready. Till I sent it to my other two committee members, which is Abhijit and Vikas, and they both had so much of suggestions to improve it that it is probably going to be ready in the next week. When Abhijit finally approves it and Vikas finally approves it, only then I'll be able to show it to you, present to you guys. So hopefully something have come in the following week.
Thank you. Baljit, any announcements?
Yes. Okay, I just will be sending the notices again for payment. I would request everybody to give their subscription so that we can have ample finance with us for use in the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh. Over to you, Naresh, for any announcements.
So next month, I think we need to plan for the elections because next month. So we need to start planning the core committee team. Whatever is the procedure we need to follow, what we did. So all four, positions are there, and we would held it before October. So 21st October is normally the date, right? So we can have it on our meeting in September, if that's okay with all of us.
That's fine. We have the AGM in September, so you can. We can.
Correct. Along with the AGM, we can do this.
Can I say something, please?
Please.
We set the precedent last time that the vice chairman automatically becomes the chairman. Let's stick to that as an automatic thing and have elections for the rest. The other thing I would like to propose is the outgoing chairman become the returning officer for the next committee.
Okay, agreed. That's fine.
Fine, Naresh. So are you done? Because then I'll
post. Naresh, we have 5 posts. That is the president, vice president, secretary, and then the the general secretary and the treasurer. So I think that we have been using 5 till now.
Yes.
Right? Not 4, but 5.
1.
That's right. So that will be election. There will be elections for 4 posts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Yes. Fine. Thanks for correcting.
Any other announcement, Naresh? So that's done?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. I will now close the meeting with prayers and wishes for all of you to remain safe, healthy, and happy, and see you next month.